Welcome everyone. My name is Jordan Bennett with Jordan Bennett and Associates here at Keller Williams Real Estate. We help buyers and sellers and investors. We've helped over 400 families buy and sell real estate. We also offer consulting and property management services to our clients and investors. And I want to thank you for joining us here on our Facebook Live today. We're always looking to add value and explore different avenues that are associated and related to real estate, just to provide good information to our clients and to the public. Today we're going to be interviewing Jason Garcia. He is a contractor and owner of Beach Break Construction. He specializes in home remodels and renovations. And I will let him take the wheel and explain to us a little bit about his background and what he does, and then we'll get right into the questions and do a little interview. So Jason, why don't you introduce yourself?
How you guys doing? I'm Jason with Beach Break Construction, owner of the company. I've been doing construction for about 15 years now, and recently, about 4 years ago, got my contract license and gone on my own, and love doing this, and thanks for having me here. This is going to be fun, and a little bit about my background. That's my company and logo there, and been married for 13 years. This September will be 14 years for us. We're a big Disneyland family, so you'll see a few pictures of that. And we have my wife Kristen, my little girl, it's 5, she's Isabella, and then I have my 2-year-old Connor. So it's kind of little pictures of them. This I think was on Easter. I got a little bow tie there. So at the Mission, located in I'm located based out of Mission Viejo, but this is right here in San Juan Capistrano. And they at the beach, so Disney on the beach, that's pretty much us.
Family man.
My wife's birthday. Looks like my son's head is floating. So.
All right, and well, I'm sure we'll see some pictures here, some before and after transition. So the first question I want to ask, and I think is something that a lot of people are thinking when they're remodeling, their home, is where do you get the most bang for your buck? Of course, when you do remodeling, it's a lifestyle. You get to enjoy it, but then it's also you're thinking, hey, there's a lot of money I'm going to spend to fix up my home. Where should I spend money? Where I'm going to get the most bang for my buck?
That's a great question. A lot of people ask that question. Where you're going to get the most money in return, I believe it's going to be in your kitchen, and also doing like your master suite. And giving yourself a master suite has a nice master bathroom, and you're thinking about the layout of your bedroom as well too, and your restrooms and the kitchens. You'll definitely get your bang for your buck there if you remodel it just tastefully. And if you're thinking about resale, for sure, you always want to appeal. You being in real estate, you always want to appeal to more buyers compared to just less. So I tell people when they do it, think about the colors, especially if they are maybe 3 or 4 years down the road they're going to sell it. Let's do like neutral colors for the kitchen.
Okay. Great. And if I'm a homeowner, what are some options that I have if I'm having trouble picking out or visualizing? Hey, where do I want to start? What do I want to do? What's my taste? Where do you start?
That's a great question. So for my company, what we offer is an in-house design consultation, and also I have architect and engineer as well too. So if people, depending if we were just going to look for a kitchen remodel and they want to get the colors, I love doing and building and putting everything together, making their dream come true. But I have an in-house designer where she helps out big time to get the colors, get the schemes, what kind of material to use for the countertops, what color cabinets they want to go with, if they're going to go more contemporary or they're going to go more traditional. I had a client of mine in Nelligale that they did red, white, and blue cabinets.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it thinking, red, white, and blue, very patriotic. I love it. But the way they did the colors of the soft red, it came out really beautiful too. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That's a good story. So the red, white, and blue patriotic cabinets. How about any other, along those lines, any other unique things that you've seen like that are kind of out of the ordinary, or you've worked on a job and you say, wow, this is really strange, or this is really cool?
No, yeah, it's funny. I always like to see what people have envision, what they're going to do. Some of the cool stuff that we do is putting some elevators in, these 3-foot round cylinder tubes that go up. It's
way.
Just shoots you up. Like if you ever go to Home Depot and see they put the money jar and it shoots up, it's kind of like the same mentality like that too.
Really?
Yep. If the area doesn't have room for actual elevator, then there's a different source that you could do for an elevator put inside.
Wow. Very cool. So tell me some of the advantages or disadvantages of using a general contractor versus a handyman.
Perfect. Good question. Well, general contractor. I'm a licensed general contractor, bonded, insured. At the end of the day, if something like the biggest thing that I see a lot of going into it, if something happens with a handyman and they underbid something, they could walk away and there's no recourse in a sense because they're not licensed, right? They cannot answer the calls. But as a general contractor, Consumer Affairs issues my license. So there's recourse from there if, like, let's say there's no more money at the end of the job, but at the same time, you do get the warranty. You get a 10-year warranty, structural warranty from the state of California that requires a licensed general contractor to have too. And the knowledge of putting the project together from A to Z, like where do we start, at what times do we have different subs coming in as well too. So that's kind of my job, is to manage and to coordinate with my guys that I use to have them coming in right together and thinking about the next guy instead of just kind of, trying to find some people to get going on it. So a handyman usually doesn't have resources as a general that I have subs I've been using for multiple years.
So you have systems, you have a process, you
Absolutely.
have all your kind of pieces in place.
Yeah, I have to. I have to have a B, C function and like product, because if I go from A, try to skip to D, come back to B, it really throws me off. But I like going A, B, C because it just works a lot easier. Construction's kind of like this step, the foundation, framing, electrical, plumbing, then you kind of work into the drywall. Gotcha.
Very good. So if I want to redo, I'm somebody who wants to redo my bathroom, I want to redo my kitchen, and maybe I'm on a shoestring budget. I don't want to go in there and rip out everything and gut walls and just go crazy, but I want to do, a light facelift. What kind of options are available to me? Do people do that? Does that make sense to do that? And just speak a little bit to the full gut reno versus kind of a facelift.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a great question. A lot of people tend to think that they have to demo everything out, rip all their cabinets out, but they really don't have to do that. If they're like, hey, we're cost effective, but we do want a new look. This is outdated. We're kind of tired of it. If they like the layout of the cabinets and they like the doors, we usually tend to repaint the doors and we put new countertops and add a new backsplash. So I have like a perfect picture for that reason, because a lot of people don't need to do where's it at? Okay, it's there. I do hope so. Sorry. Okay, so perfect right here. This is Amy. This was in Talega. Love this customer. The husband and wife are super fun people. This is their kitchen before, so they didn't want to do it. They liked the space. They liked the cabinetry. They didn't want to change the color. No layout. They love the way it functions. They're just tired of the countertop. It's tile, granite tile, right? So if you look at it, you can see the seams and the backsplash. And so what we end up doing, we put new quartz countertop and switched the backsplashes and added pendant lighting in this kitchen remodel here.
It's amazing, and without changing out the cabinetry, just with the different pulls, countertops, backsplash, you really get a totally new look.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of cost-effective way to upgrade the look. And right now, she didn't like it because she felt like she loved the floors, but she felt like the countertop and backsplash made everything too dark. And we kind of livened it up with and it's funny with the backsplash, the black color there. The subway tiles came out really beautiful. This whole kitchen here, it was a fun project.
Yeah. So that's a nice way to give it a little bit of a facelift without doing a full gut reno.
Absolutely.
Because would you say cabinets are the most expensive piece of the...
Cabinetry for sure.
Yeah.
Cabinetry will be expensive. If you want to do custom, yeah, absolutely. The cabinetry you can spend a lot of money on the cabinetry.
So talk to me a bit about permits. Do you have to pull permits? If not, what are the risks of pulling permits or not pulling permits?
So pulling permits is you have to do permits in the state of California, right? There's some states out there that you don't have to, but if you simply want to move an outlet like 2 feet away, you got to pull a permit for that. You want to switch out your windows, you got to pull permits. Permits are nice because it keeps the honest contractors honest, right? Because there's an inspector coming and inspecting the work, and most inspectors have background in the industry. They've done the work, and those are the type of best inspectors I love to work with because they actually have knowledge of what's going on with it. But yeah, you do get protected as a consumer by having an inspection coming in the house as well too. Make sure they're dotting all their I's, crossing all their T's.
Gotcha. Okay. I think another question that a lot of people are probably thinking is, hey, when I'm doing a renovation, I'm redoing a kitchen, I'm redoing a bathroom, is timing. I mean, how long does it take? And I'm sure there's a lot of variables that go into that, right? But if let's say, for example, this one here, so you didn't change out the cabinetry, redoing the countertops, the backsplash, adding pending lighting, doing a bit of a facelift. How long does a job like that take?
So this job didn't take too long. We kind of had we put a new farmhouse sink too. I don't think I have the picture on the other side of it, but we did put a new farm sink in here, and we already knew what kind of backsplash and the tile the client wanted. Mm-hmm. So this right here took about a week and a half.
Okay, so that's pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
So you're only doing takeout meals for a short
exactly,
time, right?
Yep. It's we try to keep it less. We have the materials there and ready to go and fab it before we even started the demo on this one too. So it was about a week and a half when we painted it, and they added more work to it as well too, mm-hmm. around the house. So that's kind of like the total. But the kitchen itself, it was probably about like a 4-day process.
Okay. Do you have situations where people are doing a certain amount of work where it actually makes sense for them to move out of the house in order to actually do that job? And if so, where's that point at which somebody needs to actually move out of the house?
That's a good question. So we've done projects where people still live in the house, and we kind of quarantine them off in a certain area to protect them from the dust.
Okay.
So we plastic that off, and we kind of do ram board. Let's see if I have some pictures. This is a client that we redid their whole kitchen. And we put ram board down because when they tend to walk around here and plastic everything off, so they're not subject to all the dust that's going to be happening. We use vacuums, we use our Sawzall. We try to keep the dust as much as we can down, but it's so fine it kind of goes everywhere. But there's sometimes where I have a job in San Clemente that they completely gutted the whole house. They did an open concept, so we took every wall out. So the living room, kitchen, and dining room are all one huge room. It's about like 1,300 square feet, and we're redoing their whole master. We're redoing their office and their gym, but then they weren't going to touch certain rooms. But now we're redoing those rooms, and now in a sense we're touching every room of the house, so they can't live inside the house there. So
got it.
It's in those instances that's like it'll move quicker if we don't have to turn the power on each day and turn on the water, make sure all the connections are. If we could just go through the steps and they could have like they're staying with family right now.
Okay.
So sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, just depending on the size of the renovation that you want to do. And how comfortable really are you with the noise every day and people being in your house and just, the dust.
That makes sense. So tell me a little bit about flooring. I think flooring is something that a lot of people change out to bring their homes current. Talk to me about kind of that line between aesthetic and function, where you want it to look nice, but you also want it to be really durable. What are you seeing out there?
Right now, what we've been seeing a lot is tile that looks like flooring. Some people still want to do hardwood floors, but then they have their dogs, they have kids. Like if they have a sandbox outside, they bring it in, those sandy toes, feet kind of scratch up the floor, right?
Yeah.
But the tile that looks like flooring are a lot more durable. It looks like wood, sorry, It looks like wood, correct. And it's a lot more durable, and if you put the space together, it almost looks like hardwood floors. 5 years ago, the technology wasn't there. The tile that looked like hardwood, you could totally tell. You look at it, you're like, you know what, this is not going to fly.
Right,
let's get the real stuff. Let's get the wood. But tile that looks like wood is phenomenal nowadays, and you really can't tell when you put the seams together and the job's done right. You really can't see it.
What about the luxury vinyl plank, that LVP stuff, where it's like it's the vinyl, but it like kind of looks like the hardwood? Have you done much of that, or do you have any take on that product?
I haven't done too much of it, but the few jobs that I've done, the clients weren't too happy after that it got installed because they started noticing that it chips a lot easier too.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's kind of my take on that. I like to do tile or the hardwood floors or doing the engineered flooring as well too.
Gotcha. Okay. Do we have some questions from the audience?
Yep. Melody Brown says, I'd like to replace this window with a French door or sliding door of some sort. Would I need a permit? When I need a permit, how much would that be, and the total project cost minus the door?
Right on. So to put a slider in that one there, we definitely can. The thing you want to think about when you have that's a big space right there, so you could probably easily put like a 6-foot slider. You definitely want to stay within that space. Now, if you go open bigger, then you're going to have to get like an architect engineer involved, because depending where that's at the house, if we have to go wider, depending if it's a second story, that beam might have to be upgraded to a glue lamp beam compared to regular like Douglas fir beam. Something like that, you do need to get a permit. I've done jobs, that people don't put permits because they're doing this, but something like that, depending if the association can see it, they're going to have to get association approval as well too. So that's something that you want to think about. And usually to order any windows or doors or sliders, you're looking about like a 3-week lead time. So you have some time to kind of get that stuff squared away, and it's pretty quick with the city to do something like that. And then depending on the slider, what kind of slider you want to use, you could go with the black sliders. They're a little bit more expensive, or you can go white vinyl too. So that's, all the prices depending what kind of glass you want, if you want the grids, no grids,
I would say from a real estate perspective too, I find that, the pulling the permits, I'm not licensed general contractor, so I can't get in trouble for saying this, but I'll say I think it's like anything where are you going to ask forgiveness or ask permission? And if you're asking forgiveness instead of permission, you just got to recognize what are the risks that you open yourself up to. Like Jason was saying, especially if you're doing structural things, you might want to think a little bit more seriously about about the permits. I imagine if you're not changing the actual structure or architecture of the home. And then when it comes to resale, if you're reselling a property, you just have to disclose to the buyer. There is a question in disclosures that says, has anything been done without permits? And it's okay to say yes, we've done things without permits. You just have to tell the buyer. And some buyers that can scare them away. A lot of buyers, not so much. But you do have to put that information out there.
And that's good that you brought that up. Like Jordan said, he can't get in trouble for saying that, but he brought up a good point. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission sometimes. And the biggest thing with this is like with the cities, there have been clients that didn't want me to pull permits. Now you have those neighbors, right, that all their job is to kind of see what else is everyone's business, right? So if that happens and you get stopped, a lot of contractors out there will make it like a big deal. But if you have a licensed general contractor, you're okay. The city's just going to say, hey, shame on you. Now just pay the permit fees. They don't really charge you guys. The city just wants to make sure you're doing right and you're staying up and up on everything too. So they don't really. There's no crazy fees. It's really not that big a deal if it does happen. But if you have an unlicensed contractor, they will put a red flag on your house.
Jenna wants to know, if you want to do work in your backyard, concrete, patio, cover, landscape, do you hire a general contractor for that?
That's a good question. So general contractors, we have multiple trades. Like in my shoes, I do have a good hardscape and softscape guy that I use. I know there's some contractors that are friends of mine. They don't like to offer that service because they don't have somebody that they trust. So we pass work on to each other that sometimes I don't have a strong point in, and I'll pass on to a contractor that I know that's his bread and butter and he loves to do that. So we pass work to each other that way. So
it's like anything where you're not getting, if you're going unlicensed, your risk is what's the recourse,
right,
if something goes wrong, and do they have the know-how and the skill set to be doing things to code,
correct,
and doing it properly.
Absolutely.
And so that's, again, it's that what risks do you want to take.
And then how much would a typical living room addition cost? Is it cheaper or easier to build up and add a second story or out into the yard?
It's cheaper to go out into the yard. If your allowances outside, if your perimeters allow it to, the setbacks of your house, if they allow it, it's cheaper to just go out to keep it single story, because you won't have extra beams or extra footings that you have to put into there. So it's less on the architect price of it and timing, but sometimes people just want to pop out, and then they see it's more functional to go 2 stories because they could get more square footage out of their house as well too. And some people don't want to give up their backyard, so then they go to the second floor. But it is cheaper to do the first floor addition compared to adding a second floor. And
correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but if you're adding an addition of, say, just a bedroom, it's just living square footage, versus if you're adding plumbing and a bathroom or building up, like those costs are going to differ dramatically, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If it's just a bedroom and you're not adding a bathroom, for sure that's pretty inexpensive.
So there's a lot of, the pricing questions I'm sure are very hard because there's so many variables and finishes and materials and whatnot that are going into things. But is there, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there, I'm sure people are wondering, hey, if I add on or if I go up, what is it kind of ballpark cost to build? Is it 200 a square foot, 300 a square foot, 400 a square foot? What are you kind of looking at if you want to build onto your property? I would safe to say that's a good question, and it is hard to answer that question, but people do want a ballpark figure, right? So if you're adding a bedroom, you could be between like 130 to
$50 a square foot.
That's
now, if you're
helpful.
going to like a 2-story addition, and depending how big, where you want it, what kind of roof do you have? Is it a comp roof or is it going to be tile roof? Because tile roof is a lot more heavier, but then you're looking about between 180 to 250.
Okay.
And that's a
helpful.
lot with, like if you're going to second story, you're most likely going to add a bathroom somewhere. And then that just kind of finishes that you choose what kind of flooring. Do you spend $3 a foot for flooring, or do you go with the 3/4 Brazilian cherry wood and spend $10 a square foot?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of variance, but that's
those
a
are
good,
some good big round numbers, for people to be considering.
for sure, absolutely.
Then would you need a permit to put in an accordion door where a wall is to open up the view to the backyard?
Yes. Yeah, you do.
Perfect. And then, what would you consider to be the top 3 upgrades that would increase the value of a home?
Oh, that's perfect. That's a great question. So the 3 upgrades, and I know Jordan would be more of an expert on this, but in my opinion, it's going to be a kitchen, bathroom remodels, and giving yourself a nice master suite if you can. If you could kind of take away from one place of the house and you could give yourself a master suite for every resale of it, people love that they could go away, even though you have kids, like let the kids be in the room, but then mom and dad have their own, jacuzzi tub going, a nice, layout of a bedroom where it's not so tight. It kind of feels like, life is really hectic already, right? You want to go into your safe space, especially as parents, you're like, I just need a little bit of space and everything's too tight. You want to kind of think about a master suite. I love to kind of push that idea.
Yeah, and I would say from the real estate perspective, I always say that there's 3 things that have the biggest impact on price, and it's curb appeal, kitchen, and master bath. So the same things. I mean, those are the things where really make an impact on people's wow factor.
Perfect. And then we actually had a couple requests to kind of go through some of the photos you got there. You got some intrigue and wanted to kind of hear some stories behind.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll kind of go back a little bit. So as a general contractor, you'll see a different. I kind of wanted to put up in pictures here and kind of see like a different range that we do as a company here. This is a house in San Juan. This is actually, I'm really stoked with this house here. This was my first house that I did a waterfall on, and I absolutely love the waterfall idea because if you have kids, especially kids run around with spaghetti on their hands and they go woo across the cabinets, right? This one here with that waterfall, it's just you can wipe it right off, right? Having granite or quartz. In this case, was this quartz here. We did some floating shelves with LED lights underneath there. And this house here, I'm not too sure if I had that before, but there was a wall back here, and there was just a little doorway to get out of here. So we ended up tearing all this out. And here we did keep the cabinets as well too, because they did like the layout, and they didn't want to, and they were on a time crunch. They wanted to move in by a certain time. They gave me 3 weeks, and we got everything done in 3 weeks. It was a push, but we do it. They wanted to get in right before Christmas.
I see.
So this is a job in Santa Fe Springs. I have great subs, and we did lighting for Kaiser Trucking, and we gave them lighting in this whole yard. They went from Orange to Santa Fe Springs because they needed more room to grow, and we put lighting, and so kind of we put all those new lights for them. They're a great trucking company, and they just needed to make sure all those big trucks and nobody runs anybody over. So
that's a good safety measure.
And this is Amy, the house that we talked about earlier. This is kind of the flooring that we put down. They wanted to keep their flooring, so we try to protect as much as we can. And this is a great, compared to just putting plastic down, this is a great one here because it'll actually take, like if you drop a hammer from a 6-foot ladder, you won't damage the floor with this here. So this is a great thing to have, and we take the time to cover it up and to make people feel like, hey, feel the less inconvenience as much as possible. This is kind of a house, that's the same house on the outside. And we don't do containers. That's something I pride myself on it because a lot of people, your neighbors, don't want to see a container on the outside. Because usually, like, I'll ask my container company, give me the nicest one. It's like, oh, that's not the nicest one,
So containers, talk to me about.
So the trash containers, those big roll-offs, they're like 20 feet long and about 6 feet high, right? Dumpsters, yeah. Sorry, dumpsters. So a lot of people will end up throwing more trash in there, and I have where people throw stuff they're not supposed to throw away, and then also I'm like, hey, you have paint or you have something crazy, and it's like, wow, that's nothing we did. So we have the truck here that we bring in, and that's how we do our dump runs. We fill it all up and we leave at the end of the day, so your neighbors don't have to see a big dumpster in front of the house, or they're walking their dog or early in the morning doing a jog. So, and we demoed this whole kitchen out, but they wanted to keep the floors. So that's why we took our time. We just a scaffolding job that we did in Laguna Beach. They're selling this house and they're kind of revamping this house to make it more presentable, as Jordan said, for the curb appeal. So they're repainting the whole house, adding a window into here, and fixing the inside up a little bit. It's kind of stucco, just kind of this is the wire mesh and the black paper that we put. And this is just doing the first scratch on here too. That's actually me working. I actually get in. I still put my bags on. I try to stay away from it, but I still have too much fun doing the work. So this is the window we're putting in. This is a 3-arch bay. I love the views. That was a fun project. Yeah, exactly. That ocean breeze hitting you, it's a bummer. And we put new windows in the San Clemente project here. Mm-hmm. And they actually have an ocean view, so they want to utilize this whole area to have more windows in there. So we went with 6 feet wide, 4 feet high windows.
Very nice.
And kind of the delivery for the windows there. Maybe that's it.
Great. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we got a couple more. What would add more value, building out to add an additional living room or expanding one bedroom into a bed bath master suite? Our home currently has a Jack and Jill as a master bedroom.
So pushing it out was the question?
Yeah, is it more value to build out your living room or to do a master, expand one bedroom?
Can I answer that one?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say that unless the living space is not functional, if you have a good living space and you're just saying we're going to make it, bigger and better, but you might now walk into it now and say, hey, that's really necessary. Like what we have now is okay. I'm going to say the master suite because that big master bathroom, like we said, kitchens, master bathrooms are huge.
And do you have an opinion of carpet versus another type of flooring? Do you find it's better to have carpet in bedrooms and maybe hard flooring other places in the house, or keep it consistent?
Yeah, so carpets are great in bedrooms because you'll have, you take your shoes off at the end of the day, if you get up, go to the restroom, you want to walk on the carpet. I like carpet in the bedrooms. Back in the 70s, they put carpet in the restrooms. I thought that was always interesting, man. That's crazy, right? But carpet, hardwood floors I love, tile flooring, I'm a big fan of that. Now, if you want something that, if you want to put tile in your room, like the master suite, I've done where we do heated floors. And you could have it where it turns on a certain time, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and your floors will be about 68, 70 degrees. So it's like a nice warm touch when you come out there. So that's one part to upgrade your master suite, is to put some heated floors, or even in the restroom is a good call too.
I'm interested to see who answers this one. When you do work that needs a permit but you opt not to get one, what are the future repercussions of that?
Well,
I'll tell you my experience. I'll share a story. Sure. Like I said, it's all about disclosure when it comes to real estate. So if you want to take that risk or not, I think your repercussions. I mean, if you're doing stuff correctly, and you're using a licensed general contractor, you're going through the proper process, but you're not pulling the permit, like I said, you just have to disclose it. And I think if you're doing something wacky that's non-conforming, let's say you're adding a whole separate unit, turning your single-family house into a duplex. A lot of people do that in Dana Point. A lot of the duplexes are not permitted. And you're okay. You'll get away with that until you have a neighbor that really is out to get you and reports you to the city and says, hey, this guy's operating a duplex. City comes in, says, you got to change it back to a single-family house. Well, shoot, it doesn't work. I can't afford my payment without this extra unit. Well, that could be a problem. So you got to think of, are there things where if you had to change it, that it would be a major concern? I saw a situation where somebody pulled out a load-bearing wall, and when asked the question, the disclosures, did you make any changes without permits? They said no. And so we didn't know this. We got into it, probably wasn't until about 2 years later, my client who bought this property, Jordan, I think there's some sag in my ceiling. And it turns out we had, did some due diligence.
Wow.
It turns out that they took something out without going through the proper channels. And now that turns into a lawsuit. So you do want to make sure that you consider the risks of whatever you're doing.
Absolutely, and that's what protect yourself is behind a licensed contractor, because there's still recourses. I'm bounded to the consumer affairs. So Mrs. Jones, Mr. Jones are the most important people I have to think about. So something like that, if most likely he wasn't a licensed guy or inexperienced if he was licensed, But that's kind of like, when you're doing a load-bearing wall, people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. Just hire a handyman. He could do this thing. He'll be the cheaper end. But that's where you tend to run into issues too. When you go too low on the cost and the guy's not licensed, you have 2 years later. But having a licensed contractor, they could do something. But just the next guy, right? They're kind of stuck with it.
Right.
Zach wants to know, what's the craziest shoring you've done? And probably for the rest of us, what is shoring?
Okay, shoring. You know what? I don't have this picture up here. Okay, so shoring. Shoring is when you're going to take out, for example, the craziest shoring I did was a shore break hotel in Huntington Beach. Actually, one of my funnest jobs I've done. The shoring that we use, the posts that we use, they hold 8,800 pounds apiece. And I'm really bummed I don't have that picture on here. But so we had to shore up this 4-story hotel, and we're taking out I-beams that are maybe 16 to 24 feet long, and we're adding a new I-beam that's like 45 feet long. And so we have to shore it up the hotel, and it's all engineered, right? So I kind of follow the plans, and we shore up the walls, and you continue that from the first floor all the way to the 4th floor, because the supports that we're taking out, we can't even have anything kind of sag or dip down, because if a quarter inch to half inch each floor sags, you think about there's tile inside these bathrooms, there's drywall that's going to get cracked. So that was probably the craziest one I did, was the shoring. It was pretty intense. And
4-story hotel, huh?
4-story hotel, yeah. We redid certain rooms and the restaurant, and gave them a huge banquet hall.
Wow.
So they kind of revamped the hotel there.
Let's do one more question, if we have any, or did we get them all?
That was it. We got all of them.
Great question,
all right.
Zach.
Well, Jason, thank you for being with us today. If somebody is interested in reaching out to get a bid on something, have you look at a kitchen, a bathroom, a room addition, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they could get a hold of me. Do I just say my number, or do we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my number is 714-321-0843, and you can also reach me at 949-441-1120. And you could go on my website, beachbreakconstruction.com, and you can reach me out. Phone number is the best way to get a hold of me. So that's one way you could get a hold of me, and we could talk pricings and do a job walk.
Perfect. We appreciate you joining us today, and make it a great rest of your week.